Hi, I'm KP with Coronavirus Diaries, a channel dedicated to the documentation of a world under lockdown. The past several videos we've uploaded have dealt with the murder of George Floyd, the peaceful protests, and the riots that erupted in the Twin Cities and all across the country. And although COVID-19 and the lockdowns weren't the main subject of the videos, they were tied in with the possibility of a second wave and how the lockdowns, unemployment, and the closing of small businesses have affected people's temperaments prior to the various uprisings. This one is not really a direct tie-in, but more of an abstract one. A few weeks ago, I made a video regarding how the media was reporting on the coronavirus and how many headlines were differing from and even opposing each other. It basically boiled down to how the fluidity of the scientific method mixed with a 24-hour news cycle makes for a lot of confusion. Added to the fact that many people only see the first report but miss the follow-up or the follow-up story or update, and many read the sensationalist clickbait headline without reading the full story. They call it the 24-hour news cycle for a reason, and there are advantages and disadvantages to it. The advantages are obvious, a constant stream of the latest information. The disadvantages are not as obvious, and that is what I want to talk about today. I think it's a perfect example of how a culture or industry has to figure out a way to catch up to its own technology, kind of like what the music industry had to do a couple decades back. The technology we have today makes it possible to get that constant stream of information. The problem is that means they need to fill 24 hours of news constantly. In the next couple of videos, I'm going to take a look at a couple of subjects that have been in the news lately. The tanker truck that drove into a peaceful protest on I-35 in Minneapolis, and the autopsy reports regarding how George Floyd died. This video will focus on the truck driver, Bogdan Vechirko, and his intent when he drove that semi into a crowd. My first thought, as most people's I assume, was that it was a straight-up terrorist attack on a peaceful protest. And then I noticed that he was honking his horn and slowing down after all those rigs don't stop on a dime, and that confused me. If his intent was to kill a bunch of people with surprise attack, why was he warning them with his horn and trying to stop? Why wasn't he swerving around to try to hit the people that were moving out of the way? Let's take a look at this story in the Star Tribune. According to state authorities, the driver did not intend to hit anyone when he drove onto that bridge. The driver didn't realize it was closed, as the bridge was originally supposed to be closed at the 8 p.m. curfew, and that's what was reported. But the protest moved onto the bridge around 5 p.m., so authorities scrambled to close it. It says here it was an empty fuel tanker and that he was not acting intentionally. Then about halfway down, it says their conclusion about his motives runs counter to what several people on the bridge say. Check it out. He wasn't stopping. He was beeping loudly and driving into a crowd of people. That's the kind of malice that brought us here. It's a callous disregard of someone's humanity. Another one said he began accelerating from a low speed to a high speed while blaring his horn. It was clear he knew we were there and accelerated toward us. The driver was pulled out of the truck and beat up pretty bad. Another driver said she saw no barricades blocking traffic where she was, but then saw other cars turning around and followed suit. She said she had no idea what was happening on the bridge and just thought she was going home. Another story here says it didn't appear to be intentional right in the headline. Then we get this one. Tanker truck drives into Minneapolis George Floyd protesters on I-35W bridge. Driver in custody. As you can see, they've got the mugshot here. And they quote a bunch of tweets. A semi-truck full of gas tried running us over while we were peacefully protesting on the I-35W bridge. While protesters were taking a knee on I-35, a semi-truck driver ran into protesters. The police have arrived, macing protesters instead of going after the truck driver. Today I witnessed pure evil. Thousands and thousands of protesters were peacefully marching the streets to demand justice for George Floyd, and a gas truck came barreling through the crowd. It's also interesting to me that they included this part that this happened nearly 13 years after the bridge collapsed, killing and injuring a bunch of people. Now check this out. The tanker truck driver that barreled through the crowd on I-35W had just finished making a delivery to a black-owned gas station in Minneapolis. The gas station owner is now sticking up for the driver. And this is Bogdan Vechirko's wife. Bogdan is the truck driver that unintentionally drove into a crowd of protesters on 35W due to a mistake by the Minnesota Department of Transportation. This man saved lives that day, and in return was beaten, robbed, and arrested. This family needs help. It looks to me that the official story of what happened is correct. He was the only driver willing to make a delivery to a gas station that was completely out of gas, located in a riot-affected area. After filling the station up, he made his way out of the city via 35W. It was reported that the bridge was closing at 8 p.m. for the curfew. A crowd gathered there around 5 p.m., and the Minnesota Department of Transportation scrambled to barricade the entrances to the interstate. That takes time. Also, 35W is a very windy road. I live right by it. I hate it in the winter. It does not surprise me in the least that he would not see the protesters until they were right in front of him. Semis take time to slow down to a stop. He was hitting the horn the whole time, trying to get people to move. He panicked, stopped the rig, saw a bunch of angry people swarm on him, tried to pull away, but then saw there were people now in front of him, stopped again, and then he got pulled out of his truck and beaten. The cops showed up and maced the crowd to get them off of him, and then took him away for investigation and medical attention. Hindsight is always 20/20. If I'd been there, I probably would have thought it was an attack as well and joined them. I'm certainly not ripping on the protesters. I'm sure I would have reacted the same way. However, now that more facts are out, how it has been reported since then, where established news agencies are posting tweets and quoting people right after the incident when everybody thought it was an outright attack, is lazy journalism at best. I'm especially disappointed with the one that posted a tweet ripping on the cops for macing the crowd that was beating the driver rather than joining in with the crowd. That's ridiculous, especially at a protest against police brutality. By the way, there are some pictures floating around social media right now showing the semi getting let through by the cops, and they're saying that they were letting him through so that he could attack the protesters. That picture was taken after the fact, and they were actually letting him off of 35W in that picture. I just want to clarify that. That is not the cops allowing him to go through to make an attack. That is, in reality, the cops getting out of the way so that he could get off of the freeway after the fact. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell icon so we can keep delivering fact-based news content. Anyway, stay safe out there and God bless. This is KP signing off.